Hey, it's Paul J here from DrFone, and you may have seen that iOS 14 is not that far away, and in fact you might have seen bits of iOS 14 already because Apple has released their beta for registered developers. This will be released alongside the iPhone 12 come this fall. So let's have a look at some of those iOS 14 features and then take a look at some of the rumors that could be happening with the iPhone 12. But let's start with iOS 14, and I've been having a little look at that developer beta that Apple released a couple of weeks ago, and you know what? All the changes that Apple have brought to iOS 14 are good changes. The first big change though on iOS 14 is now that you can finally customize your home screen. Apple have released widgets in iOS 14, which means that now on your home screen you can get more information than you ever could before. This is a feature that iOS users have been crying out for years, and Apple took their time with it, but Apple have done it really well. Something that's unique to Apple in the way that they've done widgets means that you can actually stack widgets on top of each other. By this, what I mean is you go into that new widgets panel that you'll see on iOS 14, you find a widget you want, you drag it to your home screen on top of another widget, and then it starts to create something called a stack. And then you can flick through however many widgets you have on that stack. But Apple have also brought something else as well. And this other thing is called Smart Stack. And a Smart Stack is fairly similar to the normal stacks, but it's more intelligent because it will show you what app it thinks you need to see when you need to see it. The only problem with widgets at the moment is that you can only use Apple apps. So if you have Spotify or Instagram and you want a widget for that, it's not happening just yet. But as we get further and further down the line with iOS 14, that's something that we're hoping that Apple will release to third-party developers. Another little refresh that you'll see when you have a look at iOS 14 is that Siri and the phone look a little bit different. In the past, if you got a call when you were on your phone, then that whole call UI would take up the entire screen, which meant your phone was unusable. And that was pretty much the same for Siri as well. But this is my new favorite feature in iOS 14, is that they have made the call in Siri UIs a lot smaller. This means that if you were now using your phone and you got an incoming call from somebody, you would get a small banner at the top of your screen and you can carry on doing what you were doing on your phone without it interrupting everything that the phone can do. A really cool thing is that you can also swipe away that call banner that comes in. So if you were in the middle of something and didn't want to answer the phone, then all you have to do is swipe that banner back up where it came from and the call will still ring, but it won't be on your screen. Siri is really similar now that that's got a bit of a smaller UI as well. So when you go to ask Siri a question, instead of it taking up the whole screen, you get that small little Siri symbol at the bottom center of the screen instead. And I think this is really nice. It gives Siri a bit of a new look and it gives it that visual refresh that it's been crying out for. If you ask Siri a question and it brings you back a result, it also now gives you a little bit of a banner, just like anything would do, like the new call UI or a notification that pops up from the top of your screen. So you can read that, and once you're done with it, you can just swipe it away. The one thing you can't do at the moment though is if you are using Siri, even though it's a small UI now, you can't carry on using your phone. So even though visually it doesn't look like it takes up the entire screen, it still kind of does. Messages has had a bit of an update as well with iOS 14 and just brings iMessage into 2020. This isn't a massive update within iMessage, but what it does is it finally gives us features that things like WhatsApp and Messenger have had for ages, whereas iMessage just hasn't had them. The first new feature that I noticed was that you can now pin your contacts to the top of iMessage. So if you speak to quite a lot of people, but have your favorite people that you want to speak to, instead of going through a big long list of threads and other messages that you might not want to see, you can now pin your favorites to the top of iMessage. The other updates come within group messages in iMessage, and it's not something that is going to change the world, but it makes it a lot easier to actually do group messages within the app. Like, you're now able to go and reply to certain messages that are sent within that group rather than having to just type a message and hopefully people realize what you're replying to. So another little update that they put into iMessage is now that you can actually mention people directly within the app. So if you're typing your message, as long as you put that @ symbol at some point in the message, you can then talk to your contacts and mention them specifically. And if you have group notifications turned off, you can actually turn on notifications for every time you're mentioned. We won't see iOS 14 properly until the fall because Apple released their new iOS alongside the announcement of their new iPhone. And this year, their new iPhone is the iPhone 12. There are loads of rumors about what we might see on the iPhone 12 this year, and the internet is absolutely scattered with truths and falses and everything that you might or might not see. So let's have a look at some of those things that might genuinely be coming to the iPhone 12 in September. And there should be 4 phones coming this fall. So that would be the iPhone 12, the iPhone 12 Max, and then we move over to the Pro models, so the iPhone 12 Pro and the iPhone 12 Pro Max. We expect the design on the Pro models, so the iPhone 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max, to go a little bit retro and take on the design of the iPhone 4 and the iPhone 5 from a couple of years ago. The best way to get an idea of how this might look is to have a look at those iPad Pros from 2018 onwards, because that is pretty much how the new iPhones will look in terms of design. The phone itself will sit in that stainless steel frame, and the one thing that they're going to keep, which was introduced on the 11 Pros last year, is that frosted glass back. So that will be available on the 12 Pros only. We've had the same design on iPhones for the past couple of years, so now is probably the right time to update it and refresh it. And actually, talking of refresh, let's talk about refresh rate. One of the most exciting rumors this year is that the iPhone 12 Pro models could be getting a 120Hz Pro Motion display. If Apple decided to introduce it this year, then this would be my favorite feature that Apple has put on an iPhone in years, and could hands down be worth the upgrade to the new phone. The rumors are though that it would be a 120Hz dynamic refresh rate, and what dynamic refresh rate means is that the iPhone would decide when and when you can't use that 120Hz. It would work really similar to how the iPad Pros use that at the moment. So if you were playing a game, you would get 120Hz. If you were watching a film, and you would be offered that 120Hz. But if you were just scrolling through emails, or you were on Twitter, or just scrolling through apps, then you wouldn't be offered that 120Hz refresh rate. The only bad rumor around this is that Apple are struggling to get that 120Hz working really well with the battery. At the moment, the batteries are just taking too much of a hit, but fingers crossed that Apple can actually introduce this 120Hz display in the new iPhone 12 Pros. There also might be an addition to the back of the phones with the iPhone 12 Pros. There should be an addition of something called a LiDAR sensor. Apple have this big vision for augmented reality, and putting this now on the new iPhones means that the capability of AR on this phone is so much more than it was on some of the older devices. The LiDAR sensor will sit alongside one of the camera lenses and make it look like a quadruple camera lens setup. The rumors are that it's not just going to be used for augmented reality, and it could be used to improve things like portrait mode on cameras, and maybe for the first time bring portrait mode to video on the iPhone 12. And finally, all these iPhones will have 5G enabled, and Apple is just now future-proofing these devices, knowing that people don't upgrade their phones every single year. And also, they might up the storage from 64 gigabytes to 128 gigabytes as a base storage option. We can only dream, can't we? That's a little look at what iOS 14 will bring us, and also some of the rumors and some of the stuff we're hoping that the iPhone 12s and 12 Pros will bring this fall as well. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel and give it a like. I've been Paul J from DrFone, and until next time, see you later.